This portion of the CU podcast is brought to you by the Perfect Jean. It stretches and moves with you so you can say goodbye to showing off that ass crack. The Perfect Jean has nailed the solution to all your denim difficulties. They were tired of the same old stiff, uncomfortable pants, so they created the comfiest jeans from an ultra soft, stretchy denim fabric that moves with you so you can squat, do yoga, and be comfortable whatever you are doing.
They also want every guy to look and feel great in a pair of jeans, so they decided to make maybe the most sizes on the internet. Whether you're a thick dude, short king, or anything in between, the Perfect Jean has you covered with 6 different stylish fits, from skinny to thick, waist sizes from 26 to 50, and lengths from 26 to 38.
Ian's been a Perfect Jean convert. He loves wearing them all the time now.
Yeah, actually, I have a couple of different fits. I think they're all comfortable. The material is durable, and I don't feel so constrained.
Yeah, and you got the blue one. Here's the minor gray. I have a few colors myself in a couple different styles. It's finally time to stop crushing your balls in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order, plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code CUPodcast15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code CUPodcast15. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them the CU Podcast sent you. F your khakis and get the Perfect Jean. All right, Ian.
Yeah.
You know I'm big about the King of Collectibles on Netflix. I talk about it with you all the time. So the King of Collectibles in season 2.
It's a fucking vomit of a show.
Oh, okay. Can you not curse in the first 30 seconds of a segment? Get demonetized anyway. So
maybe.
No, you've always been horrible with that. Anyway, so this was actually alerted to me like a few months ago, and I just either ignored it or just like whatever.
Who told you about it?
I get random emails or people on Twitter saying, "Hey, check this out. Have you seen this thing?"
Sure.
So King of Collectibles covers Golden Auctions, one of the main auction house for collectibles. We talk about heritage auctions a lot. Golden's one of the other big ones.
Yes.
Right. So this show, which now I'm afraid to say I know exists, and now I've seen like 2 episodes and doing research for this topic, covers the head of Golden and his crew of folks trying to get people to consign things from their collections to auction off. And obviously at the heart of it is, well, let's just make as much money as we possibly can through consignment. That is the show. It's a reality show. I don't know how much of it's assisted or not.
It starts on a basic gross level. The concept of the show: hi, we desperately need commissions to make money, so we're going to try to talk you into selling your shit. It's starting at the finish line. The show is fucking dripping with sleaze and grease. Yeah. So obviously shows like this have kind of existed. You have Pawn Stars where you're buying, you're selling to a pawn shop, and they're going to try to resell and make money. American Pickers was one of the first ones where like they're a middleman, like they're going to buy something and then probably try to sell it to one of their clients. But at least on that level, like the people willingly are like selling it. Even though I'm Pickers, they're like, well, we're going to do work and we're going to try to ease into trying to sell this stuff, but we have a home for this stuff. They're not just selling, they're not buying it on Pickers to auction it off. They were in theory, They had a store, they had clients. Yeah, that's a little bit, it's weird because it's like, let me sell this for you instead of you selling it. And automatically it's like, well, why? Well, so I can make money.
So I make my 20% plus seller's commission, which exists. Well, they try to hide from these auction houses that it's not just the buyer's premium, there's a seller's giving them a cut as well. They fucking leave that out, which is disgusting. That, for all my life, I just thought, well, they take a commission, but it's like, well, the seller's got to pay. The seller's providing them the means to make money. Why are you getting also that cut of that? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so they did an episode, season 2, episode 1 on King of Collectibles, which I think is funny. Let's just talk about the name real quick. They're not the King of Collectibles. You want to say King of Consignment? King of Auctioning Off? They're not collectors.
Right.
That work at the company. They have to say that they're experts on these fields in order to do their show.
I mean, the only thing I can see is like they're the king of collectors in so much as like they're where so many collectibles come from. But yes, they are not collecting shit.
No, they are bringing it to their warehouse to auction off on their auctions. Anyway, so season 2, episode 1 features a video game collector named Zach Gig out of Pennsylvania. And I won't get into the identity at first because I want to build up to that. But this segment goes to this collector's house who has a vast collection of stuff. We'll get into some of the things they have. And they say they want to potentially sell this stuff to start their own video game store.
Right.
And do that, which I guess is still a thing in 2024. But, you know.
I didn't. My understanding was that he didn't want to sell because he says in the beginning he doesn't like to sell.
But
he
needs money.
Okay.
He needs money for this potential store.
Okay, I don't remember him saying that. I just remember them showing up with the Tom Petty guitar and being like, hey, let's look around, and them wanting to talk him into selling.
Oh, but he owns a game store. That's the confusing thing. He does own a game store. Okay, this is what was confusing to start.
They convince him into selling as money for the game store, but I don't think at any point he says he needs money for the game store.
I thought he said about expanding.
That's what I thought was so gross, was they came over to deliver something, and at least as far as I remember in the episode, they just started trying to like cold convince him to sell stuff.
Well, I guess with assisted reality, they know that this is probably going to occur.
Sure.
They're going to look over through the collection. This guy has, 10,000 games in his house. He has roll-away, shelf systems. He has a lot of, you want to call holy grails that we'll get into. There's a bunch of that going on. The first thing, though, like almost immediately, I got to bring up the video here.
35,000.
They're going just, this is just like the beginning. It's called the B-roll when you're filming stuff. It's just the background film. They come across a double monitor Play Choice 10 machine. And on screen was a valuation of, I had to rewatch because I thought there was a decimal place off, or $35,000 for a Play Choice 10 machine. Let me tell you something. Of all the unless someone wants to say, hey, Pat, maybe he owns every single Play Choice 10 cart ROM board was ever made, and they were thrown in this machine. There is no, and I mean, like, I'm struggling to think of arcade games from the vintage era that even get to 10,000, let alone 35,000.
I mean, sure, there's some, but 35,000 is just one of the most absolutely ridiculous quotes I've ever seen. Just literally pulled right out of the ass.
I don't know where that comes from. If you put 3,500 on that, I would have said that's too high, but at least I would have said maybe someone wants to pay that much for a pristine Play Choice 10. I would have said, okay, that's fine. $35,000. Unless you're telling me it was like the first one that Howard Phillips worked on in the factory. And you know what I mean? It had like a Nintendo stamp on it.
Had triplicates of all the cartridges.
Yeah, I don't know. You got to work with me here, King of Collectibles. And that's one of the problems with these shows is that these are for a general audience that doesn't know any better.
The problem with this, and the problem when we started seeing like collectible articles and like CNN and stuff about stadium events, was these come from places with assumed authority on the topic.
Correct.
And they just, you call your show King of Collectibles. Now, I'm not going to assume that they actually have the authority on it, but the average Joe, and it's nothing against the average Joe, but the average Joe who just is watching it to watch it and has no idea what these games are, they're probably looking at that and going, oh, okay, this is a TV show on Netflix. Obviously, it's accurate.
They're all experts.
Right.
They know what they're doing. They have a warehouse.
Yeah.
They're the King of Collectibles.
You can't have a warehouse and not be an expert.
Yeah, it's the same thing like, what's his name that did like multiple YouTubes about me from fucking Storage Wars, Renee. Because when we talked about the awful evaluation it was giving on all
those
the games.
Atari games, I remember that, yeah.
And it's like, well, they want to pretend to be experts, but they're not at everything. Maybe they are at other things, but it's hard to be an expert at every single thing you come across.
Yes.
That's just the way it is. And that's human nature. You can't know everything when it comes to it. So they go into the collection. I don't know if you want to go into some of your specific thoughts, but some of the valuations were nuts. The one that was surprisingly not nuts, which is one of the ones that I kind of gave on one of my videos. Zach owns one of the gold NWC cards. And the valuation given on it was $400,000. That is not crazy compared to all the other valuations on the show for the other cards. Even though, again, a gold NWC has not been sold publicly in forever, from what I hear and from my personal, you want to say, feel in your gut, is that $400,000 is not some sort of weird, unreachable sort of price on it, based upon how few of them there are. And the fact that everyone wants one that can't have one at this point.
Sure.
And the fact that I've been told personal bounties from them keep increasing. Every year, I'm like, what do you hear of the bounty of this from the people you know? And it keeps going up because no one's selling it.
Right.
But you want to talk about the stadium events?
Yeah, the stadium events was wrong and strange, and parrots the whole unfounded rumor that it was recalled.
Well, here's the thing. I know Zach probably knows a lot about games. Just Press Play. That's, I guess, the game store. That's on his shirt. I know he knows about games since he sells them. But the fact that we still, in 2024, have people misrepresenting stadium events is blowing my mind. I did a whole video.
I don't think Zach misstated it, though. I think it was the overdub.
But yeah. I would think that Zach probably tuned them into the game since he knows more about it than them. You know what I mean? Like that's a fair assumption to make. You know?
I'm not going to lay that mistake on Zach.
Okay. I'm laying it on everyone.
I'm going to make it. I'm going to lay it on the show. It's not the person's who's being interviewed responsibility.
This is what they said about stadium events. They said that it was recalled by Nintendo. Like the same bullshit. There might have been only 100 that made it out to the wall. Like these have no basis in. I did a whole video about this where I had to tackle Ian in a field with Frank yelling at us in a megaphone. I did all the research and looked up all this stuff. There's zero evidence to any of that. None. The most straight line of reality likelihood is that they made very few of them because it was for an esoteric third-party peripheral that Nintendo didn't bother fucking marketing and didn't care about from a third-party Bandai that didn't make games in quantity at that point anyway. And that's it. That's it. There's no like huge conspiracy. That's it. And Nintendo didn't think about getting the rights to it right away. It wasn't until the next year. So it was like, that's what happened. That's it. It's boring. It's not sexy, but that's the story.
Right.
There's not a lot of family fun fitness pads. There would be even less games made for the peripheral it requires, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to put a number on it. I think I estimated in my video from several years back, maybe between 1,000 and 2,000. Like that's just, I'm just spitballing, but that's probably what it was. They probably made an exception for the minimum amount of NES games made back then, I believe was 10,000. This, they probably made an exception because no one had the fitness pad and they weren't going to make a lot of them. That's probably what happened. Boring, but that's it. So from that, you get the same rumors 30 years later about all this bullshit. So anyway, so they talk about him having, he has two things. He has a complete in-box stadium events and he has a cartridge. And they spend time to talk about, well, it's a 5-screw stadium events cartridge. And for that reason, there's a valuation given, and I could not believe my eyes on this. I think it was $200,000 was their value estimate on a stadium event cartridge. That's 5-screw. Now, stadium events is undoubtedly the rarest retail North American game. It's not even a discussion. We know that. But the fact that now they try to, even this extremely rare game, they try to differentiate it even more to build even more buzz. There's already a ton of buzz around stadium events. It goes for 20 to 30,000 every time the cartridge is auctioned. Yeah. To try to insert then this 5-screw thing into it to try to differentiate more is just maddening to me because I didn't make any of them to begin with.
Right. So although it's maddening, but A, I think the valuation is wrong, obviously. B, if people want to think that the 3-screw or 5-screw is, more or whatever, I mean, I can't speak to why people want to collect things, but it is an odd thing to note, and I don't think that among people who want one, it would matter that much.
That's my point, but there's no historical basis for that.
Sure.
That price.
Oh, no, there's not. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there.
Like, it's sort of like the NWC carts in a way, where I argue that the condition matters less because there's so few of them. It's like, what are we talking about at this point? They were all just thrown about and traveled across the U.S. and thrown at machines, and kids got their fucking boogers on them while playing the game. You know what I mean? Like what are we talking about here?
Right.
Like, and for this is almost the same exact thing. They had a run of these games. And it was during the transition in the middle of '87 where they were transferring over from the 3-screw from 5-screw cartridges, and they had some extras laying around. Use up the rest of the 5 screws. Just use up the rest of those fucking shells. Get those shells out of there. That's why there's some games that are, you know, hard to find, like, you know, like Mike Tyson's Punch Out, you know, the 5 screw is hard to find and goes for, you know, more money because, you know, because they made few of them.
Right.
And vice versa. There's a hell of a lot less 3 screw gyromites. I happen to own one than there are 5 screw because they transitioned out of it and it stopped making gyromites soon afterwards. It's like, to me, it's interesting only to the point of you kind of know when it was made. By differentiating, that's about it. That, to be honestly, that's the only thing that interests me. Otherwise, it's just like, I don't know. It's like owning what's an analogy to the 5 screw and 3 screw and other collectibles? Is there even one? You know, it's literally how it's put together.
So record collectors can get particular about what plants certain records were pressed at.
There's a little sticker on it.
No, not necessarily. It depends. There's various ways you can look and tell, but similarly, same item, it's when and where it was manufactured.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So they put a little premium on it because of that.
Sometimes. Well, the difference is as records, at least there is technically some people...
Different sound quality, maybe?
Some people will be like, oh, this pressing sounds better than this pressing. So there is more to it than just 3 screws or 5 screws. Because
obviously with these games, they're all digital. It doesn't matter. 3 screw or 5 screw, it's the same game.
Yeah, it's not going to play better.
Oh my God, I can run faster on this 5 screw Steam event, Ian. There's other valuations on here. The Super Mario Brothers, they put a valuation of like $300,000. What's sickening about this show is they always put the commission underneath it. So you know how much Golden can get from the 300,000.
Right.
Like, that to me is
That's what you're supposed to be, like, the way they frame the show, you're supposed to be rooting for these guys, but none of them came across as, like, fun people. The 2 guys
it's a business.
Yeah, I know.
It's a business.
Yeah.
They don't care about this shit.
No, and that was the thing, like...
They don't.
They were like, I think it was, you know, the video game collector, you know, he was just like, you know, fun. They were here to like geek out with me. And it's like, they're not, it's all an act, man. Like it's all, it was probably a more fun day for them, but it's not like they were really, I don't think they genuinely felt the things about those items that you felt about them.
They pointed like, oh, TurboGrafx on the shelf. And I was like, I mean, I guess they might have played the TurboGrafx when they were kids.
Sure.
You know, like sure. So they try to convince Zach to sell some of his games. Obviously, the big one to get would be the gold NWC. And obviously that didn't happen or else we would have heard about it.
Right.
If that was auctioned off, that would have been big news. So what did he end up? I don't put the sound.
Mario.
It was the Super Mario Brothers, like the later Super Mario Brothers sealed. It wasn't a sticker
It's
seal.
the hang tab. No, it was the hang tab circle seal, I think.
Like 87-ish?
Hang tab circle world. Yeah, something like that.
Okay. I didn't check to see how much that went for. Okay, so no Steam events. Okay, so yeah, okay, there it is. Super Mario Bros. And Steam events. Okay. They got the Steam events. I gotta look it up. I didn't do my prep. I did not see what the Steam events went for.
He had 2 Stadium events.
Okay, Super Mario Brothers and Steam events. Estimated value $500,000. Potential commission $100,000. All right, we got to look up that to see if that happened at some point. Update. Pat here with a quick update on the auction results. In the last episode of the season, it was revealed that the Super Mario Brothers was auctioned off for $193,000, more than $100,000 less than the estimate given on the show. However, the episode did not show the Steam events result. It went for $42,000, including the buyer's premium. A quick correction because it wasn't entirely clear. The Steam events being auctioned was complete in box, but only the cart was graded. While still a lot, it was about $160,000 off of their estimate, which is why it probably wasn't shown. So during the conversation with them, this is what was said by one of the 2 gentlemen from Golden. Video game market has been going up lately. That's what they say. Which is interesting because of who they're talking to. At the time, I was like, who is this Zach Geek person? The name was familiar. And I was like, was it the same person I thought it was? So I looked up the sale of the $100,000 Super Mario Brothers cart. The one that was, you know, the manufactured sale that's now in the center of a class action lawsuit, potentially being, you know, drummed up because remember there were 3 buyers of that cart. There was Jim Halpern, the founder of Heritage Auctions. There was Richard Lecce, big game collector who always yelled at me in emails and tried to buy my golden NWC card. And this individual was the other buyer of the Super Mario Brothers.
I figured that's where you were going to go, but I did not know that.
Oh, I kept it a secret from an idiot.
Yeah, you did.
Isn't that interesting? So they somehow didn't acknowledge any of that in the segment. Not that I expected it to, but you think that would have been a footnote where it's like, hey, this guy helped break the record for the largest video game sale only 5 years ago. This happened. And he's one of the main reasons why this unnatural explosion in the market occurred. And there was nary a word about it. Nary that at least made it into the edit.
No.
That's interesting, right? There's no such thing as a coincidence sometimes, I guess. You know, sometimes there is, but not here. So that was kind of not that gave me not that I, you know, had such a high, you know, I didn't put humanity on a threshold, you know, before, but now it's like, wow, this is more craven than I thought it was previously.
Yeah.
By watching this, you know, so. You want to talk about the Honus Wagner, or you have anything more to say about the video game segment?
No. I will talk about the Honus Wagner, though. There was, so basically the Honus Wagner, everyone knows.
The T206 card from 1909 to 1911. It's the most famous collectible card in existence.
Maybe one of the most famous collectibles in existence.
The Honus Wagner, if you don't know, he's one of the earlier Deadball era Hall of Famers, and he famously did not want his card. The stories vary, but the most popular thing that opinion is that he told the tobacco. They were all tobacco cards back then. They weren't bubblegum cards. Right. They came in tobacco packs. And he told the company, I don't want to be included. And people think either, most likely he didn't want it marketed to kids. He was anti-tobacco, which for someone 1900 is very rare and progressive.
Yeah, it is.
He realized this is bullshit and it's harming kids. So they didn't, not many of these made it out into the wild. Or were they recalled? Like the Stadium events? This was the Stadium events of 1910, this baseball card. And it's always been rare, even back in the 30s and 40s, people knew this was rare and hard to find. And it was like one of the cards, the first cards that went for hundreds of thousands of dollars, went for millions. That's why it's a thing.
So this was slimy, and this, you know, doesn't relate to the video game aspect at all.
Same episode, though.
But same episode and my overall feelings on a show like this. So there's a guy named Steve. They find out he's got this Honus Wagner.
A 5 out of 10 grade.
5 out of 10.
Which is great for a card that's 100+ years old.
I don't think there's any that are above a 5.
I think there's might be one.
Oh, okay. And basically the episode starts because he's getting this guy, I think it's the Golden. I think that's his last name. I can't remember his name.
It's Golden. This is Mr. Golden.
Mr. Golden. You know, and he thinks he's getting him out there to appraise the card, but Golden immediately starts trying to make a deal to
get to consign.
To sell, to consign.
Yeah.
And so then, and I've got a big point to make at the end of this. So anyways, the rest of the episode goes, and the guy's like, yeah, I'm not really looking to sell, but, you know, Golden's like, well, I'm going to get to work.
He's not looking to consign to them,
right,
to auction.
Right.
He's open to a private
open to it.
Yeah.
However, he states, he's like, I'm not like super, he's like, I am a collector. He's like, I just got this. He's like, I'm not like in a huge rush to get rid of it.
Sure. Because you're not going to order another one.
Right. Well, yeah, then that's what he says. He says,
it's like NWC card. I'm not going to order another one if I sell the gold one.
Right. It's really what I think comes down to whether or not I personally hold on to something that enters into collectible or expensive levels. It's if I sell this, would I conceivably be able to get it back? And if the answer is no, then it's a much harder thing to get rid of.
Sure.
You know? So anyways, you cut to the end of the episode, and basically one of his partners says that there have been offers made on Steve's card. And Golden gets upset because he thinks he's the only one who's been talking to him. So
yeah, that's right. He gets upset.
Yeah.
He's like, you're talking to other buyers?
So then they have this fucking stupid montage to try to make these guys look fucking cool and tough. And it never works because it's not tongue-in-cheek. They really think these dudes are fucking cool. This guy doing business is sweet. And they show him getting on a plane and grabbing his bags. It's fucking awful. So anyways, he shows up to talk to the guy about the card. And the guy's like, you know, he's like, I thought we were the only people talking. And the guy's like, no, man, I just got it appraised. Like, of course people are going to know about it.
Yeah, it's a rare card. People are going to find out about it and talk, and I might hear an offer because of it.
Right.
That's what happens with video games too.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're talking, and like what I liked about Steve was that he very much made it known that, yeah, I would sell this for the right amount of money, but I like having it because I wanted it.
Sure.
And that was the big thing to me was, you know, Golden even says, you know, he says, I think it's in the first thing. He says something like, see, I know you're a collector, so obviously you're looking to move on this, make a sale. And it's like and it goes back to what you said about the King of Collectibles being a misnomer as a name. The divide here between what a collector is and what Golden thinks a collector is.
Sure.
Is very different. Golden looks at a collector, not as a collector, but just as a conduit for things to fucking sell for commission. And I think that's where the basic struggle here comes in is there are lots of collectors who, yes, do it for money. They call themselves collectors, but there are also collectors who, I mean, that's what the name is for. You're not collecting if you just get rid of everything.
Sure.
And I thought it was funny to try to convince him, and it ends on a cliffhanger, but Pat watched the final. I know.
Give you the
but
rest.
I thought it was crazy that, so he pulls out $10 million.
He has his assistant with a bag of money, and he drops it on here as basically saying, this is what I think you can get with us. It wasn't an offer to buy because they're not buying the game. This is the money you can have by going with us, and drops it on the table.
And what I thought was fucking weird was they made a big to-do about it being sealed, uncirculated, with the stamps. And I lost my mind because they're even trying to introduce the terms that are used in the collecting market on money, cold hard money.
Yeah.
It's sealed, untouched. It's got the stamps. Like,
to a guy who has money,
these
first
people
of all.
are fucking poisoned. They're just clearly fucking brain poisoned.
And it looked horrible because they're doing this partially for show, but they think a guy that owns this card has money to begin with. So he's like, I don't know what the fuck this is. And here's the thing about cash. You can't really use that large quantity of cash for anything anymore. So like what am I going to do with this money? I gotta put it. I gotta like fill out the fucking all the Wells Fargo envelopes and put it in the ATM. What are they going to do with this money? It's the same as a wire transfer.
Yeah, the guy's like, cash is king, and it's like, well, no,
it's not.
It's not.
It's absolutely not anymore.
It's king in fucking street food stalls and low level gambling. But
it's so stupid because if he said yes, consign my card, he wasn't going to give him the $10 million.
Oh, he wasn't? I thought he was trying to pay him for that. So it was just for show.
They're not buying the card.
They're not buying the card, right? So
Golden can't guarantee a price to the guy.
No, and well,
if they put a reserve on the auction, that just means if it doesn't hit a reserve, it doesn't sell. It goes back to the owner.
Yeah.
If you consign to an auction house, they don't give you a minimum amount of money. That's not how it works.
Do you think they had to take that money right back to the bank they borrowed it from?
What are you gonna do with that?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? And Steve, to his credit, was just like, okay, like, what are we doing?
Steve, to his credit, seemed largely unimpressed by this guy the entire time.
I would have laughed. I've been like, that's great. Like, unless you're giving me the money right now as a guarantee.
Well, because a guy who has the money to wind up with a Honus Wagner card in the first place is probably better off than the guy who has to go around begging people to let him sell other people's stuff.
It was just so weird. And obviously, like, Steve said, well, I can get private. I can do better. And that was so weird is that Mr. Golden was like, I know all the billionaires. I know all the people that are going to buy this card. And it's like as Steve said, the word had gotten out. Mr. Golden just contradicted himself because people were already making private offers because they found out. So, like, for something that rare, like, there's not one person that gatekeeps all the high rollers.
Right.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was such a sleazy, and I mean sleazy ploy to someone that thankfully knew better, that didn't want to auction it off, because when you auction off that, you take this risk. Here's the thing about private selling versus auction. When you privately sell, it's on your timeline. You can wait years. You can wait for some crazy person to make you an offer and then snap it up. Like I had heard from, there was $1 million offer made on the Super Nintendo PlayStation prototype. They didn't take it. They should have. I told them to take it. He didn't. So the point is like, if you're not in a rush, you don't need the money. There's no reason to rush into an auction where how do you know the person's telling the truth that they have all these big buyers on the phone and they're going to show up that weekend? Are they going to get
well, and that's the thing, So auctioning is risky because yes, you can get people who get caught up in the moment and will bid high, but like so he values this at like 25 million. He's like, sure. We can get 25 million, be the biggest auction, blah, 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 blah. And, what if those guys are busy that day? People with that kind of money have shit to do.
Or what if
someone just forgets and misses? Like, you're not talking about a large amount of people who are going to collectively bid it up to that level. You're talking about a few players whose interest level may just not be there one day.
And maybe they have to like move an investment from here to another because the market crashes, or they get divorced and they're going through something with an ex. Like when you have that much money to play with, it's not always there for a collectible like that. It could be there this week, but not next month. Because that's the definition of expendable income, is getting a fucking 112-year-old baseball card. Like, that's the definition of expendable income. And so I'm watching it. I'm like, please don't fall for this. And then Mr. Golden sheepishly has to pack up his brand new stacks of money and then take it back on the private plane. So here's the best part about this story. The reason why we're talking about this is because they guaranteed at least 10 million. It's going to go to 25 million. I looked up on Golden's site, which, by the way, I got to give Heritage Auctions credit. Heritage Auctions, at least, when you search for things, it gives you a nice date of when it sold. It gives you the auction that was part of it. It gives you the date. Not on this site. It doesn't do that. I looked up, and there was another PSA or 5 graded Honus Wagner. The same card was auctioned.
Not his,
because I double checked. I checked it, and someone else auctioned off a card. And did it go for 25 million? No.
Did it go for 10 million?
No. It went for, with the buyer's premium, $3 million. $3 million.
Which clearly is not a laughable amount of money, but it's nothing near what this guy was trying to...
It would have been laughable to Steve.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean.
Because Steve would have been like, "What the fuck did you trick me into?" Yeah. Because there's no risk to Golden. They're getting their
they get the money no matter what.
They're getting their $600,000 commission for doing almost no fucking work.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. They made their money, and then maybe there was a guy, a private seller who didn't know that the Golden auction was happening, could have offered Steve a 5, 10, or 15 million at some point. Like. This was such a bizarre show, and I understand there's.
I can't believe it's in its 2nd season.
So it does not make. First of all, it doesn't make Golden look good. I mean, the company as a whole. I don't want to do business with them after watching this. And I'm a person that can potentially do business with one of these people. And my choices are getting thin, by the way, because I don't want to work with Heritage Auctions or, I guess, Golden at this point. At this point, I'll be doing a yard sale if I have to sell an expensive game. But, like, I understand there's a market for this show. You want to see rare collectibles. They went to some guy's house who had 3 different Olympic torches. The fucking torches, they run for 150 miles. And, like, he had 3 of them. And I got him to consign them. My heart was broken. He was like, "Oh, these torches are special because every Olympics we put them up, we display them, we watch TV together." I'm like, that sounds sentimental. I'm like, that's actually pretty fucking cool. That's such a rare, actual rare item to own, an Olympic torch. They probably had a few backups. They didn't make like 1,000 of them for each Olympics. And then he caved and consigned them, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Whatever amount of money you got for it, I mean, you probably paid a good amount. You're never going to get it back. So anyway, going back to the game auction stuff, just you got to watch out for these shows. And this is one of the reasons why we don't talk about this stuff just to dunk on them. It's sort of like we're trying to let the mass audience know that they're trying to shape a narrative for not just the markets of these collectibles, but how they think how wholesome the process is. It's not.
Yeah,
there's a lot of dirty dealing behind the scenes, obviously. Yep. This show kind of puts it on Front Street in a very weird fucking way.
Yeah, they put it on, like...
It's very explosive.
They put it on show, and it's... But they do it straight-faced. Like, you could do a show like this and make it interesting if you kind of took the side that they were the bad guys. But this is all like, this is good. These are cool dudes. This is hustling's real awesome. And it's just, I don't know.
And I guarantee you they're not showing the stuff that fails.
Absolutely not.
They're not going to show the auction because I've seen some clips from other shows where they get some poor family that, you know, from South America that has like a rare a Lionel Messi card or whatever, like as a chase card, and they gather the family comes to the headquarters, life-changing money, and they parade the fucking family out like they're zoo animals.
Yep.
These people, like Mr. Golden's a multimillionaire. It's a multi-million-dollar operation, and they use this.
Yeah,
family,
watching them talk to that kid about the baseball in the beginning, and like it's just I didn't like watching.
That. You don't want to watch the one with the family that's like, oh, this is life-changing money. Please, I hope it gets to $100,000. You know, I'm just like, this is what the fuck am I watching at this point? So there you go. I guess that's another auction company I can't do business with. Is there a third one out there just in case? I'm running out.